The world's game, football. But what happens to the most popular sport on earth in one of its most isolated places? St. Helena, an island with only 4,500 residents off the coast of South Africa, is one of the most remote locations on earth. And with just 2,100 tourists visiting each year, it's a world away from the major football games. We know football is something that can unite nations, from the World Cup to the Euros, AFCON and beyond. But in a place like St. Helena, so distant and difficult to reach, does the love for the game still shape life as it does in the rest of the world? This is St. Helena, an island of just 4,500 people, where the only regular migration to the outside world is a weekly flight from Johannesburg, a 6.5 hour flight. Before 2017, that journey meant 5 days at sea, so life here is defined by isolation. But on this tiny rock in the South Atlantic, football isn't just a sport, it's a heartbeat. Week after week, beginning in May and ending sometime in winter, local teams like Rovers and Bellboys and 4 other sides clash in a league driven by pride, tradition and love for the game. The pitch might be worn and uneven, but for 90 minutes it's a theatre where heroes can rise, rivalries burn and the island spirit comes alive. For the players, teachers, engineers, fishermen, these matches aren't about fame or fortune. They're about representing their community. But here's the real question. How does football survive, and even thrive, on an island so remote where even the most basic of facilities are difficult to obtain? How does a sport built on global fandom stay alive when the nearest stadium is thousands of miles away? To truly understand it, I sat down with the man who knows St. Helena's football culture better than anyone, the head of the St. Helena FA, David Price, as well as Keith Yawn, a player who had represented the island in an international tournament. After talking to both, it became clear just how big a role football plays, even on such a small island.
Well, St. Helena is a very small island in the middle of the South Atlantic. There's only about 4,000 people on there, but interest in football is huge, both international, particularly the English Premier League. There's many people supporting it. And over the years, it's been one of the main sports played by the young people on the island. It's a fundamental part of the culture of St. Helena. Sport generally is, but football particularly is keenly followed.
The football culture on St. Helena, it's very much a very loved sport. We have a very, very small sporting community. The sports that are dominant is definitely football and cricket. The most dominant sport is definitely football on St. Helena. It is part of our culture. People, as well as spectators, look forward to going out on a weekend to go and watch the locals play football.
And while football is a core part of the island's culture, there are significant issues facing growing the game in St. Helena. Both financial constraints and geographical location significantly contribute to the struggle for obtaining better facilities. Currently, the island only has one pitch that all 6 teams play their games on, and there is no floodlights either. This means it can be difficult to train and almost impossible in the winter. Speaking to both David and Keith, it was evident that facilities was the biggest priority in improving the game in St. Helena.
In any sport, you're only as good as 2 things. Number one is your competition you play against, and number 2, your facilities. If you have decent facilities and decent competition, you will shine. Obviously, it's also your mind needs to be in the sport, but for sure, definitely, if we had better facilities, e.g., a better pitch, whether it's a 3 or 4G pitch, good training facility, good training lights, we could train in the evenings.
And the pitch itself isn't really very good. It's the climate varies between very hot and very dry and a bit wetter. Unfortunately, when St. Helena was discovered, there were no mammals on it. Settlers over the years have introduced things like rabbits. Rabbits have no predators, and rabbits love digging up football pitches.
It's a death trap. We pick up serious injuries. Guys have kinked their ankles, knee injuries. It's as hard as nails. Certain times of the year, it's spot the grass blade type of thing. But yeah, we certainly do need decent facilities.
Raising the quality of the football is difficult because the pitch is, well, poor is probably being kind to it on some days. When it's hard, it's very, very bouncy. But the island doesn't have the money to invest in the likes of the 3G and 4G pitches you see spreading around elsewhere in the world. We simply don't have that kind of backup.
And even if the island was able to rally together the funds for a 4G or 3G pitch, Keith told me that it would be incredibly difficult and even more expensive to get it to St. Helena due to its location.
To be honest, if we had to if for any reason there was some, a dynamic sponsor out there that would provide a 3/4G pitch for us, the logistics side of things of getting a 3/4G pitch here would involve shipping, I would say, at least 6 to 8 containers for the material. And just to give you a rough idea, to ship a container from the UK to here is in excess of £8,000 for one container. To ship a container from South Africa to here is in excess of £5,500. So yes, logistically it's a nightmare, but nothing is ever impossible.
While money is a downfall in the growth of football on the island, it is also a hindrance to St. Helena on the world stage. Although they aren't a member of an official confederation, St. Helena do participate in a tournament called the Island Games, which brings together small islands to compete in all kinds of sports, including football. St. Helena has only competed twice in football and is unfortunately unable to attend for the 2025 games due to the finances involved. A big blow to the players, as representing their island brings them a lot of pride.
So I was a goalkeeper coach and player goalkeeper when I traveled to Guernsey in 2023. For us, that was our second international appearance abroad. We at our standards, we fared very, very, very well. Even though we came last in the tournament, we were probably the team that was probably loved the most because we are so passionate and humble about the sport.
It takes a huge amount of fundraising. To be honest, we wouldn't have got to the last one in Guernsey had it not been for COVID, delaying it for a year or so, because that gave us an extra year to raise the money.
Yeah.
And even then, it was touch and go right up until the last moment that we'd have enough money to get there. Now, obviously, for the young people of the island and the footballers of the island, the opportunity to play in any kind of competition off the island is huge.
So yes, it's first of all, it's a huge honor. We took players from. We actually had 2 minors that were under the age of 18. So there's a lot of room for going forward for youngsters' potential going forward to be able to represent St. Helena abroad. And it is indeed a big honor to represent your island. Again, I just want to reiterate that we've got a very small population for us to take part against islands where there are potentially 1 million people, 1.5 million people. It's a huge task at hand to compete at that level. But our boys play with passion and heart, and they just love the sport.
And while being part of the United Kingdom, there is little financial help from the Football League and the FA towards St. Helena. I asked David if a situation like the Coup de France could be possible, in which the French Federation allows their overseas territories to participate in their cup competition.
Well, we've written to both the FA, the Football League, and various other people over the years to try and ask what we could do to work with them. But generally, the English FA does not allow any of the other overseas territories. There's 10 overseas territories, Gibraltar being a classic example. And Gibraltar operates independently as part of UEFA. The Caribbean overseas territories are a part of the Caribbean Federation. So the English FA doesn't generally take that view. We've got to look at something in terms of trying to bring forward some funding from outside and some support from outside. There's a very active group in the UK called the Friends of St. Helena, and they are always fundraising in England and Wales and Scotland and Ireland and various other places, and trying to support the island's cultural activities, of which obviously sport is a key part. So that is an enormous help, and we're always very grateful to both them and the people on the island who turn out to support us as well. But it's, as I say, just getting off the island when you bear in mind a return trip to South Africa by air is about between £800 and £900 per person just to get to South Africa. And if you need to get from South Africa elsewhere, you can double that. So it gets very expensive very quickly.
After listening to both David and Keith, it shows how far football can travel. Even in one of Earth's most isolated locations, the sport still holds a great deal of value and provides a major sense of community. Although they have struggled financially to grow and elevate the sport, their heart and determination have kept it alive. Hundreds of people watch each game and upwards of 500 turn out for their league and cup finals. In the grand scheme of an island with only 4,500 people, the turnout is incredible. With limited resources but unlimited passion, the people of St. Helena remind us what football is truly about: community, resilience and love for the beautiful game. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe and let us know in the comments where we should explore football next.